Hey, you guys, Charlotte here. How's it going? I'm so excited that you're here. This is the first time that I am going live on Facebook and Instagram at the same time. So I am fingers crossed, hoping that this is going to go okay. But if it doesn't, I will make sure that there is a link to this video that you can access afterwards. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are having an awesome day. Happy Monday. Or if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, happy Tuesday. If you are watching this live, please say hi so that I can say hi back to you. And if you are watching this on the replay, please hashtag replay so that, hey Mark, so that I can check in with you and say hi. I love the fact that you guys take time out of your day to come and chat with me, and I never, ever, ever, ever take it for granted. So thank you. I'm so pleased that you're here. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend. Oh my goodness. Last week, wow, like it was just a complete, last week was a total roller coaster. You guys, last week was a total roller coaster with us. Like, it was one of those weeks for me. Do you guys ever have these weeks where it was everybody wants something from you? Like, you need to be something for everybody, right? You need, like, everybody is kind of like, okay, I need you to be this, and this person over here is like, I need you to be that, and you feel like you're putting out fires everywhere, and you know, you're just kind of, you're here, there, everywhere, and everybody needs a little piece of you, and it is just kind of crazy town, and you're like, okay, I need a little bit of peace. I need a bit of peace for me. I need a little piece of me for me. I need to keep a piece back. Do you ever feel like that? Last week was one of those weeks for me. It was just kind of like, you know, we had the girls with us last week. You know, we were, putting out fires with the girls. There was it was just an emotional roller coaster. And I kind of got to the end of the week, and I was like, oh, whew, I am tired. You know, it was just a really low vibe week for me. I had a really hard time getting motivated. I wanted to sleep more. I was just kind of feeling like, oh, you know, and just really not feeling that kind of energy and high vibe and energeticness that I kind of normally am feeling. Hey, Tamara. Hey, Nicole. Hey, Candy. Not feeling that kind of normal energy that I normally feel. And it was kind of a week. So we kind of had a lot of stuff going on, and there was a lot of, you know, putting out fires, kind of making phone calls, like talking to different people. You know, there was a lot of, individualizing everyone's needs and making sure that everybody got what they needed. There was a lot of things going on with different clients of mine. And then on Thursday and Friday, we went to an amazing conference. We were really lucky to get tickets. We were gifted tickets, which was amazing, with the amazing Dr. Jody Carrington. If you don't know this woman, hey, Amy, if you don't know this woman, then I really encourage you to go and to look her up. She's actually an Alberta girl. She was originally from Viking, Alberta. She actually now lives in Olds, Alberta, and she is a clinical psychologist. And she spent 10 years at locked-in inpatient units in the hospital, in one of the hospitals in Calgary. And she talks about the impact of trauma on the body. She talks about the impact of trauma and emotional regulation, and how, you know, when everybody feels like that, everyone seems like they're losing it, you know, how to kind of get that back on track. Like, super, 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 super interesting, and really gave me a lot of insight, and gave me so many tools, you know, that I was just able to walk away with and just be like, okay, this is kind of what I need to do in order to be able to look after this, be able to be here at this point of my life. And the one thing that she talks about is that we are all wired to do the hard things in our lives. You know, whatever you're going through right now, you know, whatever is really difficult and challenging in your life right now, we are wired to do those hard things. And honestly, I listened to her say that, and I was just like, whoa. I was just a complete emotional mess, because, you know, as a stepmom, I love my 3 girls, but it has been probably one of the most challenging things that I've ever done. And I don't try and hide that, because I think, we need to be real about the shit that's going down in our lives sometimes. I think sometimes, particularly if you're a woman, but not even if you're a woman, you're anybody, we kind of put on this brave face, where I'm from, the UK, it's like stiff upper lip. You just kind of carry on. You don't talk about your feelings. You don't talk about your emotions, and you just kind of power through. And so, I really believe, hey Carol, I really believe in just being completely honest and transparent with where you're at. And so, it has been probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done. And when she said that, we are wired to do the hard things in our life, it just really kind of gave me the motivation and the courage to just kind of really keep going, and just to kind of really, power forward. Because whatever it is that you are walking through in your life right now, you can absolutely do this. And the reason that we are wired to do this is because we are wired for connection. You weren't ever supposed to do this alone. You're supposed to do it in connection. And so she talks about what it used to be like in the old days when there was a 1-bedroom house, and grandma or mom and dad had the main bedroom, and then you and your 2 siblings all shared a bed, and how there was no opportunity for emotional dysregulation, because at the end of the day, when you had to crawl into bed next to your brother or your sister, it wasn't kind of going to be like, I hate you, good night. Yeah, I hate you too, good night. It was just everybody dealt with their stuff as they were going through the day. And today, we are, you look at kind of really what happens in our society, and we are not able to get a grip on our emotions as well as we used to, because we have got that disconnection. Right? We have got that disconnection, and she said, if you go down to the US, it's all, the issue is guns, if you're here, wherever you are, the issue is drugs, it's the video games. So she says, it's not any of that. The issue is connection, and that we are missing connection. We are lacking connection in our lives, and how we are wired for connection, and we can make it through the hard times when we are connected with other people. And so, she talks about the brain, and she talks about the fight, flight, and the freeze. And if you imagine, if you put your hand up like this, and you imagine this is your brain, if you put your hand up like this is your brainstem. And I apologize now to all the doctors and the scientists out there who are watching this going, she does not know what she's talking about. That is not your brainstem. But this is the center of the brain. And this is where the fight, flight, and freeze response is kept, right? And that is obviously, we are all wired with that, right? That is obviously there to designed to protect us, to keep us safe, to keep us alive, but sometimes that can work against us. So if this is the fight, flight, or freeze, if you then wrap your hands over this is your prefrontal cortex. So your prefrontal cortex is here. And this is where you learn absolutely everything you've ever learned. This is where you store it. How to tie your shoelaces, how to make your breakfast, how to regulate your emotions, right? How to get through challenging situations, how to, the route that you take to work, how to effectively communicate. Like everything you have ever learned is stored in your prefrontal cortex. But when your lid is flipped, you have no access to this at all. The only thing you have access to is this, which is the fight, flight, or freeze. And so what she talked about was, when somebody's lid has flipped, we want them to regulate their emotions. Just get it together. Get your shit together. Just learn to be a normal human being. But that's impossible for somebody when their lid is flipped. So she kind of talks about how to help other people regulate their emotions. She says, connect before redirect. We want to tell kids, we want to tell other people in our lives, how they need to kind of get their life together, how they need to, what they need to do to solve their problem. But when their lid is flipped, they're not hearing. So we need to help them reattach their lid, get out of their fight, flight, or freeze response mode and hear what we're saying, and then we can talk about redirecting them. And so just super, super interesting. And I learned so much from listening to her, and just like, wow, wow, wow. And so, yeah, so last week was kind of a, bit of a roller coaster. It was a bit of an emotional roller coaster. I did some great learning, and I felt just all week, I felt just like, oh, really, really low vibe. And so, what I wanted to just kind of say to you guys today was something that I have really tried to embody in my life when I'm kind of feeling like that is, and I actually have it stuck on my, I actually have it taped to my laptop so I can kind of see it every day, is take the path of least resistance. Sometimes when life feels hard, and you just feel this kind of constant, like, just struggle within you, just take the path of least resistance. Taking the path of least resistance is not taking the easy way out. It is not just always doing what feels good. It is doing what feels good, but it's not negating your responsibilities. It's not negating your accountability. It is not just kind of just kicking life to the curb. It is actually doing what feels in alignment to you at that moment in time and taking the path of least resistance. Another way of saying it is picking your battles. And really what taking the path of least resistance does is stop fighting the process. Stop fighting, and you know what I mean. When you get into this kind of feeling and you're like, oh, you're just feeling like this inside, and you're just constantly just fighting the process, and and you're fighting for it to be a certain way. Maybe you have an image in your head, maybe you don't, and you are fighting for it to be that way, and and it just doesn't feel good. Everything feels like a struggle. Everything feels hard. Everything just feels like, you don't particularly, you're not enjoying life. You're not particularly thriving. You can tell when you are really fighting it, when you're fighting the process, because your relationships don't feel that good. You kind of feel like at odds with people. You feel like you're at odds with yourself. You're pissed off about everything. Everything's crap. Nothing is good. And you're just really not enjoying life. That's when you kind of need to take the path of least resistance. And hear me when I say this. The path of least resistance looks different for everybody, and it looks different moment to moment. Maybe the path of least resistance for you is, you know what, I'm just going to sit here right now, and I'm just going to breathe deeply for a few minutes, because that's what I feel like I need. That's what I feel like I need to do. Or I'm just going to go for a walk. Or maybe the path of least resistance is receiving a text message or an email or some kind of communication that you weren't expecting, and it completely took you off guard, and it totally just threw you. Maybe it's not responding to it right then. It's kind of saying, you know what, I'm gonna come back to that. I'm just gonna now is not the right time to do that. I'm just gonna come back to that. Maybe the path of least resistance is just taking a break and watching your favorite show. You know what? Maybe it's like, I really am having a hard time doing the dishes right now. I'm going to take a break, and I am going to just watch my favorite show, and I'm just going to kind of calm down, and I'm just going to take a moment for me, and I'm going to breathe. Maybe the path of least resistance is when your child is doing something that is really, really frustrating you, and they want to do something in a specific way, and it's not, if they do it that way, it's not, there's nothing wrong with that per se. They're not gonna get injured. They're not in danger. They're not going to be in harm's way or anything like that. It's just, that isn't really the best thing to do, or maybe you prefer them to do it a different way, or maybe it just doesn't match the picture in your head. Sometimes maybe the path of least resistance is to say, okay, fine, If that's how you want to do it, I don't, you know what, I don't, doesn't really make any difference to me. It's not going to hurt you. Your safety isn't, you're not in danger. Your safety isn't compromised. Your health isn't compromised. Child and family services aren't going to be knocking on my door, phoning me. It's okay for you to do it this way. Maybe that's taking the path of least resistance. Maybe taking the path of least resistance is when your child is screaming for you and they really, really need to be cuddled, you just pick them up and cuddle them. Because, we can't regulate our emotions on our own. We have to have somebody else help us do that. And the way that you do that is it's like, okay, come here. Okay, let's have a hug. Okay, I know. You calm them down, and when the lid is back on, then you can talk to them. Now, you know what? Hitting your brother really isn't the best idea. It's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to hit people, is it? Well, no, maybe that is taking the path of least resistance. So whatever it looks like for you, and it's about being really honest with yourself about what your needs are in that moment. Like, what are your needs in that moment? You know what? There were a couple of times last week I just really needed to watch The Walking Dead. Like, and that sounds funny. Okay, how could that be your need? But you know what? There were a couple of times where emotionally there was a lot required of me. It was draining at times, and the path of least resistance for me was, I'm just going to watch The Walking Dead, or I'm going to put this on in the background while I'm doing something else. It's not going to affect my concentration doing this. It's not going to, what I'm doing here is kind of, automatic. I'm just going to put this on in the background so that I can watch this while I'm doing this, right? And it's not really going to harm anybody. It's not going to compromise what I'm doing. It's not going to, negatively impact me in any way, but I'm just gonna do this. I just felt like in that moment I just needed that kind of mental break, and so that provided that mental break for me. And so I went with it all week, and I wasn't mean to say like I kind of just basically lay on the couch and I'm like checking out from life, I'm bye, see you guys, like I'm gone, I'm done. Nope, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, I just went through the path of least resistance, and I was like, okay, how can I take care of my needs today? Because when you're taking care of your needs, you're actually taking care of everybody else's needs too. So when you're taking care of your needs, you're actually better able to come back and take care of those around you. Whether it's your colleagues, your family, whether it's your spouse, your children, whoever that is, right? When you take care of your needs, then you're able to take care of other people's needs. So sometimes taking the path of least resistance is actually how you can kind of move yourself along to that next step, because I'm constantly aware and I'm constantly in tune to, what's kind of going on around me. Like, I'm constantly aware and in tune to the fact of, okay, so, what is going on around me? What inspired action can I take? And sometimes by taking the path of least resistance, you're actually allowing ideas and things to flow much more freely to you. It takes a lot of effort to do something that just does not align with you. When you are constantly like fighting yourself and you're constantly having that internal struggle, it takes a lot of effort to actually do it. And when it takes that much effort, your focus is away from everything else. So I just wanted to kind of hop on today and just say to you, when things are kind of feeling tough or feeling hard, it's okay to take the path of least resistance. In fact, it is okay to take the path of least resistance all the time. Remember, taking the path of least resistance doesn't always mean it's the easiest thing. It means what feels good to you in that moment, what feels aligned with you in that moment. If you have started a business and you are actually kind of, you're like looking at what everyone else is doing, you're like, I need to do this. Just because it's worked for them doesn't mean it's the right thing for you. It doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. You might have some success, but just because that's what worked for them in their business doesn't necessarily mean that you should be doing it in your business. What feels right for you? Maybe starting a blog does not feel right for you. Maybe having 5 different social media accounts that you have to publish a reel or content to every single day does not feel right to you. You know, maybe there is something about your business that someone else is doing that just doesn't feel right to you. Taking the path of least resistance is doing what is right for you. And maybe someone else has said, you know what, I will never go and meet my clients face to face. But you're like, no, that kind of feels right to me. Or I will never go and knock on people's doors. And you're like, no, that kind of feels right to me. Then do it. Do the path of least resistance is doing what feels right to you. And the path of least resistance always feels good. It feels completely 110% in alignment with who you are as a person and what you're about. And you may not necessarily always understand it. Here's the thing. With the path of least resistance, you may not always understand it. And sometimes it may make absolutely no sense. And your logical mind might be saying, I don't think you should do this, Charlotte. I don't think you should do this. Because we have been programmed and conditioned based on narratives that we were taught growing up and what we learned in the environment around us, that we need to do things in a certain way. And so we might be thinking, nope, this is not a good idea. But if it really, really feels right, and you think to yourself, this feels right with every part of who I am, this feels right, I feel positive about it. It feels like it aligns with who I am as a person. It feels like it aligns with, you know, what I want, what I'm about, then do it. Because when you take that path of least resistance, you are aligning with who you are and the reason that you're here on this planet. And when you align with those things, that's actually when you're able to kind of walk in your flow, and when you get creative ideas that come to you and resources that come to you and connections that come to you, because those things that are for you become more obvious to you. Remember, when you are fighting and there's that kind of internal struggle and you're so laser focused on trying to get whatever it is to work, you're kind of missing other stuff, the other things that are kind of coming up, the other opportunities. So the secret to realigning with yourself, and the secret to reconnecting with yourself, and the secret to actually living the kind of life that you want is to really pay attention to your needs and to take the path of least resistance and to listen to what that is, and to be faithful and have the courage in taking that first step, even if it doesn't make sense, but you just know that it feels right for you. Take it, because it will open more doors. It will make you more in tune to what's available there to you, and it will connect you with the right people and kind of keep you on your path. So I hope you guys had an awesome day today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I so appreciate that you guys stop in to say hi. If you are watching this on replay, please hashtag replay so that I can say hi to you too. And if you think that somebody needs to hear this, please feel free to share this. This will be available. You will be able to access it via my Linktree link. So I will make sure that that's available to you guys. If you're on Facebook, you can kind of go to my profile and see that. But if you're listening to this on Instagram, you will be able to go access my Linktree link, and you will be able to, hey John, and you will be able to access this afterwards. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Remember, take the path of least resistance. It's the only way to stay fully aligned with everything that life has in store for you. And believe me, everything that life has in store for you is only good. So enjoy it. See you guys. Bye.